cold to be sleeping outside in Tofino if you don't have the right gear with you.
Well, you're getting wet.
In winter. And then what if it happens? There's another what if. What if it happens in summer? Of thinking, well, how much food should we have stockpiled? Some people say 3 days, some people say 7 days. I'd say here in Tofino, for sure, weeks of food. And, for sure, weeks of food. But then I was thinking, well, what if it happens in the summer when we have 20,000 extra people in town? How much food should we have stockpiled then? Whose responsibility is it to stockpile food for the tourists? Should the town do it? Should the resorts do it? How do we make sure we've got enough food for people? There are a lot of things that need to be talked about, and no one's talking about them.
Okay. Well, we're getting on to that point then. What are you had a couple of comments earlier that you made about to me before we got on the air here about preparedness and things that we can do, or things that that groups could do and organize, maybe becoming more aware about where the actual tsunami safety line is, assuming that the earthquake isn't the primary concern, and people, and well, it will be a primary concern, it will be a large concern, but the primary concern is the ensuing tsunami. I think people's awareness of that is a little limited about what is actually potentially safe in the tsunami situation, what the water levels would be, and how to respond.
Yeah, and I think we had, I don't really know if we even still have an emergency preparedness committee, because we haven't heard anything from them for about 3 years. 3 years ago, and I don't want to say anything against the people involved. I really appreciate that they are volunteering their time to do it, but at the same time, this is a big, serious thing, and we need people who are really informed and specialists in the matter. Volunteers can work with them for sure, but volunteers who aren't trained in it shouldn't be making the critical decisions on it. And that's, I wrote a series of articles for our community 3 years ago because I was really concerned about a lot of the advice that was being given, like grab-and-go kits with 200 and some items. How are you supposed to run away with that? It's like the difference between what stuff do you need to survive the first 12 hours of the earthquake compared to what stuff do you need to survive the coming weeks. Like, it's not like the photos in Haiti where you see these big ripped out rebar and concrete buildings that pancaked down that you'd never be able to dig your food out. Here we got houses built out of cedar and whatever, and we have, if your food is stockpiled, and unless you're in the tsunami zone itself, but if you're above the tsunami zone, we'll have lots of time to be digging through the rubble and finding your tinned corn and whatever you've got put away in there. So we need really clear advice of the different reasons for why do you stockpile things like the grab-and-go kit by the door, especially if you live in the tsunami zone. You need to get out of it right away. So you need to just be something you can grab at the door, which I'd say would be something like a tent, a power bar, a water bottle, some warm clothing, and you just run with it and get up to the higher level. And that's the other big thing that I had a problem with some of the advice, is that geologists have figured out chances are the most likely wave height for a place like Tofino, not places like Port Alberni, where, as you were saying, the waves get funneled up an inlet, but open places like Tofino, it'll probably be a 6-meter wave. So let's assume that 6-meter wave comes at high tide. So theoretically, the safe ground is 6 meters above the high tide line, which is not actually that high. Like when you first turn, I surveyed the height on Lynn Road when you first turn into North Chesterman's on Lynn Road. And the peak, the highest point on Lynn Road, right there, like about 100 meters from the highway, is 5 meters above the high tide line there. So it's not actually that high. And then the scientists are saying, well, we think 6 meters, but we want to err on the side of the caution. So let's add 50% to that and say 9 meters. And then there's the fact that the ground will probably subside about a meter during the earthquake. So add 1 more meter, and that makes 10 meters, is what scientists, including a margin of error,
so for our old imperial friends, that's about 33 feet.
Yeah. And then our local emergency crew said, well, let's just err on the side of caution and add 50% to that and call it 15 meters. But the scientists already added their error margin. And in some places that wouldn't matter. But in a place like Tofino, and especially a place like Chesterman's Beach, going from 10 to 15 meters rules out almost every place.
Yeah, changes your distance from a walking or running distance to something that, in the amount of time that you would have, would require like a car or quick bicycle.
The official advice for someone who lives, say, in South Chesterman's, the official advice is they're either supposed to go to the school, which is 5 or 6 kilometers away, or go out to the airport, which is, I don't know, 12 or something like that kilometers away.
On roads that have just been ravaged by an earthquake.
Yeah. So one tree down
Yeah.
destroys the
Yeah.
evacuation
You got cars
plan
backed
there.
up all the way to and
Yeah,
it's over.
and there'll probably be a real lot of trees
Yeah.
down. So someone who's living around South Chestermans, they could run up to Rosie Bay and save their life. It's not like they need to be there for weeks. They need to be there for the next 12 hours while the tsunami waves
Yeah.
are coming in, and then they can go back and check out and see what's left of their house. But they don't need to be there the whole time. They can make their way later on to Long Beach or the airport to be around the emergency crews.
Yeah.
So it's just that kind of advice and that's why I wrote those articles, because I felt that the advice that we were being given was actually putting people in more danger. Both the amount of stuff to carry, the type of stuff to carry, and where to go was putting people in more danger and would actually cost people's lives. I've never heard a response from those articles, and I've posted them. I've posted both on my own blog, which is JacquelineWindh.com. I've posted just information about the earthquake itself, about how scientists know, and the stuff about coring the mudflats. And then on the Tofino Residence blog, which if you just Google Tofino Residence, you'll find it. Then I've posted a lot more about this, comparing our situation to Haiti and some of our preparedness issues. And I've posted links to both of those articles that I wrote for the community 3 years ago. So they're also, again, just going into a lot more detail about what my issues with our emergency planning are. And, it's 3 years later, we've learned a lot from Haiti. There's a lot I would update those with, which I've kind of addressed on the Tofino Residence blog.
Cool. Well, I think that covers most of the things we discussed beforehand regards to this. I guess if it, like Jacqueline said, JacquelineWindh.com is her blog, and then there's the Tofino Residence blog as well, with more information and more insight onto this thing. Is there anything else you'd like to add before we
just the Tofino Residence blog? People can also comment and ask questions on it, and there's a whole bunch of stuff. I've created that blog, the Tofino Residence blog, for our community to discuss a whole bunch of issues, whether it's community events or water or earthquake preparedness or music festivals or anything. And every single article in there has room for people to comment on it, and I really urge people to go there and promote some discussion on these. And if people have other issues they want to raise on it, I've opened it up to lots of people. If you want to raise anything on the Tofino Residence blog too, and open up a new discussion on a new topic. So just,
Groovy. Okay. Well, thanks a lot for joining us, Jackie. We're talking about today being the 310th anniversary of, I guess, the most recent massive earthquake through our region. And
9 p.m. tonight, have a thought for the anniversary.
Yeah, that's actually good. That's
kind of, think of it like Remembrance Day. It's not like a celebration kind of commemoration. It's a thing that we should still think about.
Absolutely.